Thank you, Mr Speaker, and good to be here after so many months of absence to be able to discuss matters with the Leader in person. Can I begin, Mr Speaker, with your statement, which was very welcome, about what happened last night? And I think really the Leader of the House ought to be a little less nonchalant in his approach to this, because what we presented to the public and the world last night was quite an unedifying spectacle, to be honest. The conga line going through this House involving members who, many of whom clearly had some difficulty in social distancing, was not a good example to set. And the fact of the matter is this, that when we did have the remote voting system, it did not fail. It worked perfectly well on every occasion that it was put to the test. It is a system that was fit for purpose, and as you well know, as the Procedure Committee has recommended that whilst this pandemic persists, we should go back to that form of voting, which is not only secure, but is also safe and allows people to vote without coming into proximity with each other. So I hope that when we discuss these matters next Wednesday at the debate the Leader has announced on proxy voting, we'll be able to consider alternatives as well. And I hope we'll be able to take some action in this prior to the current arrangements running out at the beginning of November. Mr Speaker, my second point is really to ask the Leader of the House to invite him to comment on the resignation yesterday of Lord Keane, the Advocate General for Scotland, who reached a point where he found it impossible to continue to serve in the government because of the government's intention to proceed with breaking international law. Can the Leader of the House comment on that, and can he indicate whether or not he thinks he will be successful in finding a qualified law officer in Scotland who will be prepared to count him as breaking the law in the future? And finally, Mr Speaker, can I ask about the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme and the Self-Employed Support Scheme, both of which we will be discussing as backbench debates this afternoon. But members from across the House who will be participating in that very well-subscribed debate look to the government to bring forward proposals for what will happen after the 31st of October, when many businesses will have to remain closed by government order. And if that is the case, then it seems to me that the public purse has to assist them in getting to the other side of this pandemic. And it is not enough to simply close down the scheme and say, that's it.
Mr Speaker, thank you. It is a pleasure that we are back face to face. It has to be said that when the Honourable Gentleman appeared remotely, he looked like one of the rather more bad-tempered Old Testament prophets. And now, seeing him face to face, we see his natural joviality shining through. So he's very welcome back, and I'm sorry I wasn't here last week. Yesterday, the votes worked. That is the key. Had the technology failed remotely, we would simply not have been able to get the business through. And it's proving that this House is back to work as the rest of the country is coming back to work. We are leading by example, and we should be proud of the fact that we are doing that. He asks me about my neighbour friend, Lord Keane, who is a very distinguished lawyer. He has indeed left the government. And I'm sure there are many brilliant Scottish lawyers who can be found, who can be asked to fulfil the role of Advocate General. That the pool of wisdom in Scottish legal circles is very deep, and I have absolute confidence that we will find someone of comparable genius to the noble Lord to take the role that has been vacated. The issue here is a very important one. Do we defend the national interest of the United Kingdom when the EU is acting in bad faith, as the Prime Minister has said? And the answer is yes, we must defend our national interest and we must defend our United Kingdom. Now, the Honourable Gentleman doesn't want the United Kingdom to exist, and that is a perfectly respectable position for him to take. And it is something that is put forward by his party in Scotland. But it is not the position of the government, or indeed of the majority of people in the United Kingdom, who have an affection, an attraction, a devotion, a patriotism towards their country, and they want it to succeed. And its success will be determined by laws passed in this House. As regards the question on the job support scheme, it is worth reminding the House what has been done by taxpayers. £160 billion of support from taxpayers across the United Kingdom, £35 billion on the furlough scheme, £8.5 billion for 3 million self-employed people, £15 billion from SME and large business coronavirus business interruption loans, and £35 billion in over 1 million bounce-back loans. This is an enormous amount of taxpayers' money, but taxpayers' money is not unlimited. So the schemes cannot go on forever, but I'm sure the debate later on today will be